and in our and for reporting and everything. Just kindly be aware of that. Secondly, I would like to invite everyone to mute themselves and only unmute yourself when you're talking. If you don't do that, then we will take upon our liberty as hosts to mute everyone, and then you can only unmute yourself when you're talking. There is ample time for everyone to talk. And our idea here is that every panelist we invite has speaking space. This month, particularly, we are focusing on amplifying youth voices in the issues here. So youths in the diaspora, for several reasons. Young people in the diaspora of Cameroon is growing over time, especially with the conflict. And because of the conflict, or also because of economic consequences, a lot of young people move out of Cameroon. Cameroon is not left out of the huge African, what do they call it again? That money that goes back home is called what? Transferred payments. There's a word for it. The amount of money that is repatriated from people working abroad. Remittances. Thank you. Remittances keep growing from every African country. Cameroon is not left out because the Cameroonian population really migrates abroad, and most often it is young people below the age of 35. So therefore, considering this, and also considering that our work at defyhatenow really focuses a lot on fighting, on countering hate speech, and especially online, and transforming social media to safer spaces, and young people abroad definitely connect more to home through social media, it is but normal that we should bring this topic in the context of youth perspectives. And therefore, I'm delighted that the 4 different panelists accepted to be our guests today. And together we are going to expand on that topic a little bit more. I am happy now to introduce the moderator of the session, who is going to take over now and then continue. I'll only come back again at the end. Pardon? Yeah. I would like to call on everyone to turn on their subtitles so that we can have whatever you're saying also coming out as words, so that it can have accessibility for everyone, including people who have a little bit of challenge with audio challenge, hearing challenge. That said, now let me welcome for Hansen Chanji, Prince, who has just newly become a father. Congratulations again for Hansen Chanji on your becoming a father to a beautiful girl. Our greetings to you and your partner for your wonderful achievement. And I encourage everyone to drop their points. Those who are not the panelists, to drop their points into the chat box. And at the end towards the end, we shall use the last 15 minutes or so to read your points, to read your questions, and see if the panelists can react to that. I wish you a wonderful, conscientious deliberation afternoon. Hello, Hansen.
Thank you very much, Valerie. It's a big pleasure always knowing that we can come together like this and discuss for nation building. It's always a pleasure meeting very respectable panelists. I was going through their profiles, and it's so huge that we cannot go through all their profiles today, because they are very respectable Cameroonian youth who are in the diaspora, and definitely will be bringing in their own 1 cent as far as contributing on the topic is concerned. Of course, the Cameroonian youth, both in the country and in the diaspora, are facing numerous challenges amidst the ongoing crisis. The roles and perspective of the Cameroonian diaspora youth are crucial in addressing these issues, as they often bring unique insight, resources, and connections to the table. From advocating for peace and dialogue to supporting efforts and affected communities, also the diaspora youth can play a significant role in fostering positive change and reconciliation in Cameroon. Their perspectives can also offer valuable perceptions on potential solutions and pathways for peace in our homeland. And today we have very talented, experienced persons to discuss this topic: Cameroon youth at the crossroads of crisis, roles and perspectives of the Cameroonian diaspora. Now, I will just try to break the topic down to suit every guest. Like I said, we have very respectable and knowledgeable guests here, the panelists. This means by the end of the discussion, we should be able to see the role of women and gender activists, international relation experts on migration, and the topic that was discussed by President Bobby on the 10th of February. What can be the role of technology, the social media, the artificial intelligence, and finally, education and research. And why not culture? We have an expert here. To begin with, I would like to ask our panelists to give each an opinion on a trendy topic in Cameroon, hate speech. But I would like to introduce Dr. Monique Kwacho. Dr. Monique, I was going through your profile. You've done quite a lot, but can you tell us a little bit, like 30 seconds about yourself? And then you tell us about the hate speech that has been ongoing now on the social media in Cameroon. Good afternoon.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, Hanson. Thank you for having me, Defy Hate. I am Monique Quattru. In sum, I am a reader, writer, and youth worker. I also do research on education, gender, and development, specifically youth development work. As to what has been going on regarding hate speech, honestly, I think it's better now than it was in a few years back. So I think we're speaking in the antithesis of the anticlimax of the season. Hate speech for me peaked in 2017. I think I had a meltdown on Facebook Live after people. I had like an identity crisis. I think I wrote for This Is Africa about having kind of an identity crisis in my own country because of the crisis, because of the Anglophone crisis. Having been raised as an Anglophone, but knowing that my parents hail from the Western region, during that season, it felt like you have no right to speak on this topic. And the names that were thrown at you at Black Leg, or just plain curses, or someone taking your picture and mocking you because, or throwing hate against you because of something you said and shared your opinion, or taking your words out of context, so on and so forth. But I think it's right now, in my opinion, I think it's gone down from that time, and it's because of efforts such as this. Is because, and also because more people are beginning to see that what we were saying back then as things have unfolded, unfortunately. What I would like to say though is even as I say this is the anticlimax period, it's not that the root has been healed. That's what I like to leave. The root has not been healed. The hate speech is still there. The hate is still there. Even if the speech is not as loud as before, even if people are not saying as much as they did before. But if you go to certain comments on the certain posts, if you go under better things, if you go under poor social, if you go under certain comment sections, you will still see that the bias, the ignorance that fuels the hate is still there, just waiting for the right thing to pop out. And so a lot of initiatives like this have helped, but yeah, we need to deal with the root.
All right. Okay. Thanks so much. We shall be coming back. This is just an opener. Let me go to Morias. The second name is kind of jaw-breaking, but I'm sure it's Morias Gingaye. It looks like a name from Bali in the Northwest region. Am I correct?
No, I'm not from Bali in the Northwest region. I'm from the West region. Yeah, at Penka Michel. I don't know if you know that department.
Okay. Now, Morias, tell us. You've also been observing the phenomenon of hate speech. Now, let's take the perspective of diasporans. They have been accused of vehiculating this hate speech on the social media. According to your own observation, Is this true or not?
Can I answer in French to be more fluent?
Oui, pas de problème. Cameroun, c'est un pays bilingue, quoi.
Ok, merci beaucoup. Oui, oui, effectivement, comme tu étais en train de dire, il y a en fait ces différences de culture qui arrivent lorsque la diaspora a cette nouvelle approche, si je peux appeler ainsi.
Ouais.
Vu que au Cameroun, on va dire qu'il y a des fléaux sociaux qui sont très répandus et qui, au niveau de la diaspora, n'existent pas. Donc, la diaspora critique et relève ces propos qui ne sont pas forcément très bien compris au niveau interne. Les gens qui sont quand je dis au niveau interne, c'est ceux qui vivent au Cameroun. Donc, ils prennent ça pour l'injure, je vais dire, pour une intervention voulant salir le pays, alors qu'au fond, on peut voir que c'est pour une évolution. Maintenant, tout ce qui est propos de haine, propos haineux, propos tribal même et tout, c'est quelque chose qui a toujours existé et qu'on a négligé de base.
Ouais.
Et je ne sais pas si je vais dire, ce côté diaspora, ça touche beaucoup la sensibilité. Quand je dis que ça touche énormément la sensibilité, c'est que, étant à la diaspora, les gens en interne pensent qu'on n'a plus en mémoire le contexte camerounais, alors qu'on a en mémoire et on veut que les choses évoluent. Et cette évolution passe par une profonde remise en question. Et la profonde remise en question amène à des questionnements qui sont très importants. Mais maintenant, nous, notre ère à la diaspora, c'est parfois que nos questionnements sont limite des critiques qui ne sont pas constructives. Ce sont des critiques qui visent à toucher cette sensibilité-là et les gens sont très susceptibles au niveau interne au Cameroun. Donc, on doit essayer de revoir ça au niveau de la diaspora. Mais par contre, tous ceux qui sont en interne, ils doivent essayer de voir la plus-value en fait de l'intervention de tous ceux qui sont dans la diaspora. Après, je mets de côté les activistes qui ont ce côté très politisé. Moi, je mets plus des gens qui mettent en avant des actions concrètes pour voir le pays évoluer et non ceux qui se focalisent juste sur la politique et qui critiquent sans à côté mettre des perspectives et mettre des solutions bien précises.
Ok, merci beaucoup, Maurice. Et on peut aussi dire que, comme tu l'as dit, il y a une dimension politique. Et en 2018, après les élections présidentielles, on a vu une augmentation des hate speech qui a aussi causé beaucoup de débats sur la toile. We shall talk about this as we go on. Now, let me go to Cynthia. Should I say the diplomat? You are knowledgeable when it comes to international relations and diplomacy. Now, have you also been observing this phenomenon of hate speech on Cameroon's social media space? Cynthia, good day.
Good day. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. Thank you for your question as well. Yes, I have observed the hate speech, and upon which I have a question: do we actually mean what we write? Because we talk about social hate speech on social media, and which is really viral, especially after the election of 2016, coupled with the Anglophone crisis that escalated in 2016. Yeah, so we witness a lot of new words coming in and kind of this viral hate speech phenomenon growing up. But I'm kind of triggering in asking, do we really mean what we write? Because it's one thing to write something, it's other thing to actually put in action what we actually see on social media and how impactful it is really on the lives of each and every one. I will not go astray of what my other panelists have said so far. So I have witnesses, and it's a reality in Cameroon. But I think also we have to take into account the background where we come from. You know, sometimes the interpretation of words are not the same as it used to be before. Like Moria said, It has existed before. It's just that today it has taken another dimension based of the new dynamics that the country has been involved in, and the interpretation as well has changed. But I don't think that somebody would take the knife and kill another person on the road just based on the fact that he has been labeled one of one name or the other. So for now, I would say hate speech is a reality that exists. But I don't think that it's at a point that we really do mean what we say. There's already a structural technical violence existing in the country. The country is really located at a very fragile stage, and hate speech is among the phenomena leading, putting the country in this fragile state. But most of the time we write what we don't mean. It's just the feeling and the mood on the online platform, and most of the time do not really take physical violence on the ground. Not that it doesn't exist, it does exist, especially considering the security concept. But it is a concept that me personally, I treat with caution. I would like this to stop here for now.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Cynthia. Now, the last panelist to talk on this aspect of hate speech is Tangang Andrew. Tangang, now, Tangang Andrew, you are a research fellow and you are a culture enthusiast too. Can we say today that with the proliferation of hate speech on the social media, the diaspora, which is usually considered as a big tool and a big vehicle in development and good governance, is gradually becoming a nuisance to the Cameroonian society, this aspect of hate speech? And should we also say today that we are losing our cultural identities? We're no more welcoming individuals?
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to hope that everyone is listening to me. Yeah, so you said just to get your question again, if the diaspora can, because you were kind of breaking towards the end.
Yeah, I asked if we are losing our cultural identities, as you know, Africans were known, let me say, before now, to be people who are always very welcoming. But the phenomenon of hate speech has now caused a lot of division. Are we losing our identities as people who live in peace and solidarity? Also, let's look at the role of the diaspora in this.
Okay, thank you very much for Hansen, and happy to be with you on the panel, and welcome to all the other panelists. Yeah, so interestingly, when Cameroon gained independence and reunification, I think the former president, El Haj Amadou Ahidjo, declared that African unity, or Cameroon, is going to be an embodiment of African unity. Of course, we had the realities of France or the French colonization on one side, and the realities of English colonization on the other side. And Africa at that time, of course, was really dependent, or was almost 3/4 of Africa had these two realities. So merging them in one country was going to be a defining moment for how Africa moved on. But now, as a country, let's say, yes, as you mentioned, the diaspora has been a real vector of development. But I think 2016 was a defining moment. If the Boko Haram insurgency did not affect us, but I think the Anglophone crisis has really weaponized hate speech in Cameroon. And as all the other panelists have said, the things we said and did before completely took a different turn, especially from 2017, when the conflict became like when we took the armed term. Now, I would also cite again with all the other panelists that sometimes we might not mean what we say. Unfortunately, too, we are in a generation where the younger generation like to play a lot, especially when they are on their phones. You can say anything just because you want to say it. Like, go away, you Amber. I mean, you you could just be joking, but it has its own implications. You could just say that online and you're picked up because of for security concerns. Again, still amongst young people, we strategically divided the country into 4 strategic regions, hate speech wise. With all due respect, we had the Mutongna, that's the northern regions. You had Sadina, that's the west, south, and east. And then you had Tongtina, that's the west region. And of course, Ambazonia, that's the northwest and southwest. And then, of course, we include the littoral to Sadina. Those are just terms that we create sometimes to, again, have fun. But it still comes back to, do we really mean what we say? But I think it has not really translated to Cameroon not being a welcoming country. It is true that we have our ways that we look at it, and with AFCON, especially the AFCON that just ended, we saw a different dimension of Cameroonians. Even during AFCON in Cameroon, you notice that at some point, it is really not a problem of peoples or like Cameroonians, but it could just be a political something, as you've said. During AFCON in Cameroon, when people were insulting Cameroonians, you notice English Cameroonians and other Cameroonians who speak and understand English very well online, they were managing those of English Africa. French-speaking Cameroonians were managing those of French Africa. And I mean, it was a beautiful moment to watch. And I think I had this conversation with Vibanda. I've never believed that there's something that could unite the country that much. So the fact still remains that we love our country. And I still want to side with the other panelists to ask, do we really mean the things we say? Are we saying it just for fun? And I think that's where the diaspora comes in. Sometimes people are acting based on their emotions, the experiences they had before in the yesteryears, probably because they call you, you say, well, you'll be a friend, for example. You are angry and you just want the country to spread, and then you just go into Sadina and all of those. But apart from that, yeah, I think there's been that politicization, which I think has created some of these cleavages.
Okay, thank you very much. Giving us a cultural identity and, of course, a cultural setting in terms of what is ongoing. Now, let's look at youth now, especially the diaspora at the crossroads of the crisis in Cameroon. Now, let me go to Dr. Monique Kwachu. We shall be coming back to your 3,000 community members that you've affected so far, your job and your work. But just tell us, how have you been able to galvanize a diaspora, especially women, to work with you? And what is the situation of gender-based violence in the communities that you've visited so far?
Okay, I'll need to clear up a few things. Although I'm currently working with the diaspora in the UK with the University of Bristol, I have never really been a diasporan person.
Okay.
I've never really been like a diaspora-based person. I've never stayed out of Cameroon for over 9 months.
You're a pragmatic diasporan person because you're always on the ground. So tell us more. Tell us more what you've been.
Very transactional diaspora. You would actually place me as based there. So I can't speak for. I might suggest, but I can't speak for those that are based in the diaspora. I still have a foothold back home. I'm in Yaoundé right now, for example.
Yeah.
So in my case, with working through Better Be Cameroon, another thing, we do predominantly youth work. Our perspective or our theory of change is raising a younger generation with better socialization, more positive socialization, educated with the capacity and the opportunity to actually change the future themselves. So we're not addressing the leaves. We're working on the young people that will eventually be a different set of people, a different set of citizens and a different set of leaders. For that reason, I can't also say my work addresses gender-based violence as a problem, or Better Be Cameroon's work. My work as a researcher, my work as a lecturer in gender studies, yes, but Better Be Cameroon's work addresses socialization that breeds the thinking of gender inequality. For example, we have gone to CMF meetings, Christian Men's Fellowship, spoken to parents and CWF about how they're raising their kids and gender bias and gender divisions in the households. So we have furthered sex ed programs, those with young people, to be able to address those things. But we are not addressing the problem as is visible in the society, unless I'm supporting another organization to do that, such as Sister Speak 237, where I can be a facilitator for an event, something like that.
Yeah.
What I would say regarding our projects is, in working with, through the Summer and the Youth Right Contest, for example, we've had multiple, which is a youth essay contest for undergraduate students nationwide. I think that's our most popular project. And that has been an annual essay contest. And through this, we've been able to, it's a rightivism project. We've been able to get young people to talk about what is the issue with Cameroon. One of the themes for I think 2020 was Dear Cameroon, we need to talk. Another year was about what makes our identity, what makes être Camerounais, what makes you Cameroonian, what makes you, and a clear case in point is when we were putting up posters for that to advertise the essay contest for that year. We were warned in Bamenda that we should not put in some schools because we could actually get the schools targeted to be burnt. So that was already like trying to pass that out to say, is there a communal Cameroonian identity, or is it that we are all different and just put it in the country? And getting young people to talk about this so they can remove that underlying hate and the ignorance, to try and see what connects us, what makes us different, how are we the same, and perhaps build that bond. Because going back to what Andrew said about our culture, about AFCON and things like that bringing us together, I've said Eru, music and football and beer has done more work than the bilingualism committee in terms of bringing Cameroonians together. Honestly, because nobody cares that Eru is Bangi. Nobody cares that it doesn't really have a linguistic group. Nobody cares where Jovi is from. He's more Yahudi than anything else. And I think if we find the common ground and appreciate the differences from the root, such as what Nigerians are doing, trying to know that this colonial master stitched a lot of diverse people together, we can then go forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And also the role of the females or the women you're working with in advocacy and awareness. Definitely, they have a huge role to play. Or are you working with both sexes, like male and female, or are you pushing?
I work with everybody.
Okay.
We work with everybody. A Better Bit Cameroon is a youth development focused organization. So we work predominantly with young people, from pupils to undergraduate, let's say 30s, but at most 32. But generally both sexes, all our projects have always been like that. But obviously we are countering gender-based, well, let me say we're furthering feminist goals by ensuring that we address the mindset behind gender inequality.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Now, Maurice, let me come to you. We talk IT. Now you are a diasporan Cameroonian, definitely you stand in the best position to tell those who are fleeing from the conflict on what to do and what not to do, especially when they are navigating online in search of jobs, in search of maybe schools. Now, I did a report 2 months ago concerning one Cameroonian lady who came to Nigeria and she was due about 6 million francs CFA. She's not the only one. There are many Cameroonians who are fleeing the conflict, who say they are fleeing the conflict, some for economic reasons, and they are going abroad for greener pastures. Now, as someone who is in the IT and then who knows all these things, what can we do today to make sure that this does not happen tomorrow? Many of them who are watching you now, how should they go about this massive exodus of Cameroonians who are being scammed? Some go for ghost jobs in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Guinea. How does this really work, you know?
Oui, oui, effectivement, comme tu l'as si bien souligné, il y a une forme d'exode qui est exponentielle, vu que le chef de l'État, le 11 février, enfin le 10 février, il
Ouais.
a énormément parlé dessus. Donc, ça montre que le malaise est très profond et que plein de Camerounais ils veulent quitter pour venir dans la diaspora et ils prennent des risques non mesurés. Donc, c'est vraiment quelque chose de très présent dans les esprits. Maintenant, au niveau de l'IT, dans sa globalité, c'est très important que les gens sachent que l'IT permet de travailler peu importe où vous êtes. Par exemple, moi, je suis là sur Paris, mais mes missions sont généralement Bordeaux, Strasbourg, etc. Mais moi, je ne quitte pas mon siège de Paris. Je reste à Paris pour gérer cela. Donc, le digital offre cette opportunité-là à la jeunesse de travailler, peu importe où vous êtes. Tant que vous êtes bon, vous pouvez travailler étant à distance. Il y a tout à l'heure, le docteur Kwachu disait qu'elle va très rarement dans la diaspora et qu'elle est plus au Cameroun, mais elle fait ses travaux, je crois que c'était à l'université de Bristol, si je ne dis pas de bêtises. Docteur Quacho, vous pouvez juste confirmer?
En Angleterre?
Oui, en Angleterre.
Ouais.
Donc, effectivement, donc on peut voir qu'elle a fait ses travaux étant au Cameroun et puis avec des universités de l'autre côté. D'ailleurs, si vous voyez derrière moi, il y a le logo de l'événement qu'on essaie de promouvoir, qui est le Cameroon Cultural and Digital Days, qui met en avant tous les aspects du digital qui peuvent aider la jeunesse à se former et comment est-ce que le digital aide aussi la culture. Parce qu'on a bien compris qu'il y a deux aspects aujourd'hui qui sont importants en plus du sport, comme le frère le disait tout à l'heure, qui peuvent aider la jeunesse à s'épanouir, à contribuer à son autonomisation. Donc,
Ouais.
on a compris que c'est le digital et la culture et un peu de sport, mais sauf que nous, on n'a pas les appétences pour le sport, donc on a préféré laisser le sport de côté. Donc là, il faudrait que la jeunesse commence, d'abord, à utiliser les réseaux sociaux de façon plus éthique. Quand on voit la sphère des influenceurs au Cameroun, les influenceurs camerounais, ils sont très orientés dans tout ce qui est buzz. Et quand je dis buzz, c'est le buzz qui n'est pas positif, toujours. Ça tourne pratiquement toujours autour de la sexualité, autour de l'alcool, autour de ce genre de trucs. C'est pas mauvais si c'est ce que les gens ils aiment. Moi, je suis pas là pour taper sur la tête des gens. Mais à côté, il y a aussi des gens qui promeuvent de bonnes choses. Par exemple, Rebecca Inonchon, lorsqu'il y a une opportunité, elle n'hésite pas à communiquer sur sa page Twitter. On voit Annie Payeb qui le fait. Il y a des personnes qui sont là pour démontrer qu'il y a des opportunités dans le digital. Il faudrait que les jeunes puissent aller suivre ces personnes ressources-là et voir qu'est-ce que je peux faire en fonction de la formation que j'ai à faire au Cameroun, ou peut-être aller sur des sites comme Coursera qui offrent des formations gratuites en plein de domaines. Et tout se fait 100% en ligne à la fin, tu as une certification. Je pense que les jeunes, ils doivent sortir de cette sphère des réseaux sociaux parce qu'ils sont énormément dans le Congossa en ligne. Regardez par exemple les live TikTok, les pages de Congossa et tout, tous les commentaires, les likes qu'ils arrivent à avoir. Mais si vous voyez par exemple une page qui essaye de démontrer les opportunités, que la jeunesse peut avoir au travers du digital. Par exemple, defyhatenow qui se bat pour tout ce qui est hate speech, tout ce qui est violence verbale, tout ce qui est violence autour des ethnies, etc. Regardez par exemple les pages de defyhatenow. Ce sont des pages qui ne sont pas suivies, alors qu'ils essayent de promouvoir quelque chose qui est très intéressant et quelque chose qui est super bien. Ça me permet aussi un point qui est le tribalisme en ligne. Le frère l'a si bien dit. Il y a des intonations qu'on attend aujourd'hui, que ce soit Sadina, Tontina, Ambazonien. Ce sont des intonations que parfois on le fait dans le mauvais sens. On dit qu'on blague avec un ami, mais on ne connaît pas l'état d'esprit de l'ami qui est juste à côté. Il prend son téléphone, il a vu comment on appelait l'autre mec en bas. Ou peut-être il a vu on appelait l'autre mec Tontina, Sadina. On ne sait pas ce que ça crée en lui, la frustration que ça crée et comment ça se répercute au quotidien. Donc, il y a ces éléments-là que nous, à notre niveau, on devrait déjà signaler à ces différentes plateformes. Quand je parle de plateformes, c'est tout ce qui est Facebook, TikTok et tout, parce qu'eux, ils n'ont pas cette code. Ils n'ont pas les codes que dit Sadina, Tontina, Ambazonien, que c'est quelque chose qui est forcément de mauvais. Donc, nous, déjà, notre rôle, que ce soit la diaspora, que ce soit ceux qui sont en interne, ils doivent déjà signaler ces mots-là pour que ces plateformes et les algorithmes puissent comprendre que c'est quelque chose qui peut alimenter la crise au niveau
Ouais,
du Cameroun. Donc, ça, c'est un
effectivement.
point qui est très important. Et ensuite, un deuxième point qui est très important, c'est la formation. Là, je ne veux pas tirer sur le gouvernement, mais je pense que le gouvernement, il devrait beaucoup plus intégrer l'IT. L'IT est incontournable. Par exemple, moi, j'ai fait 3 années d'études ici en Europe et pour moi, l'IT a toujours été au centre. Mais quand j'arrive au Cameroun avec l'événement, le Cameroon Cultural and Digital Days, je me rends compte que quelqu'un qui est en Master 2 n'arrive pas à me faire un mail correctement. Et ce n'est pas de sa faute parce qu'il n'a jamais eu à devoir faire un mail durant toute sa période académique. Donc, ça fait que tu te poses la question, mais si c'est qu'on intègre, je ne sais pas, juste un ERP dans les écoles avec un intranet pour pouvoir permettre aux étudiants d'avoir juste un mail et communiquer avec le professeur via ce mail ou, je ne sais pas, un réseau social d'entreprise, par exemple un Teams, un Zoom, etc. C'est juste ces petits trucs qu'on peut intégrer facilement et qui peut permettre aux gens de développer leur éducation numérique. Ça ne demande pas
OK.
grand-chose. Certes, financièrement, ça va coûter à l'État, mais ce sont des petits, on va dire comment, des petits outils qu'on peut intégrer de manière progressive pour que cette jeunesse-là puisse comprendre que l'IT aujourd'hui offre des opportunités et que tu peux être freelancer, tu peux être en CDI sans avoir à se déplacer du Cameroun.
Okay, thank you, Maurice. Just to come back to the aspect of hate speech in the diaspora. Now, your first point was very valid. You know, the diasporans who are using all sort of words on hate speech, hating against each other. Now, you spoke about digital culture. Now, how can this aspect be reduced culturally in the among the diasporans?
Oui, effectivement, il faudrait que la diaspora aussi, qui ne reste pas fermée dans je sais pas, dans le mindset que le Cameroun est difficile à changer. Parce que ceux de la diaspora, lorsque vous causez avec eux, ils vont vous dire que ouais, on va essayer de discuter, on va essayer de faire ceci. Ça ne va rien changer. Donc, autant mieux, on se comporte de n'importe quelle manière, qu'on peut insulter, etc. Parce qu'on sait qu'on va rien nous faire. Nous ne sommes pas au Cameroun et on n'a pas l'intention de peut-être rentrer au Cameroun. Donc, on peut dire du n'importe quoi. Moi, à mon niveau, ce que je fais, moi, j'essaye de faire comprendre aux membres de la diaspora que ça ne sert à rien d'insulter, par exemple, que tel n'a pas fait ceci, tel n'a pas fait son travail, que nous, à notre petit niveau, on peut s'engager et on essaie de mettre sur pied des événements où on essaye même d'être des vecteurs de quelque chose de bien sur les réseaux sociaux. Par exemple, moi, sur les réseaux sociaux, et ça, c'est ce que je dis à mes amis de la diaspora, sur mes réseaux sociaux, il y a un certain type de compte ou peut-être de médias que je ne suis pas. Parce que je trouve que ils encouragent la haine. Que ça, c'est le premier aspect. Si c'est que tu peux te permettre déjà de unfollow ceux que tu estimes reconnaître qu'ils encouragent la haine, le tribalisme, etc. C'est déjà une première victoire. C'est que tu ne permets pas à l'algorithme d'ouvrir le champ de possibles. Et ensuite, deuxième point, il faudrait que la diaspora puisse signaler ces comptes-là et aussi qu'ils puissent réfléchir à deux fois avant de publier quelque chose. Comme je l'ai dit dans mon propos préliminaire, il y a deux cultures qui se ressemblent. Il y a la culture camerounaise, il y a la culture de son pays d'origine. Ça fait que quand vous êtes dans la diaspora, il y a certains éléments que vous ne voyez plus de la même façon. Et ces éléments-là,
Okay.
quelqu'un qui est en interne au Cameroun, lui, il ne perçoit pas ça. Donc, quand vous parlez, par exemple, vous allez lui dire, etc., vous avez fait ceci, cela, etc. Lui, il va voir ça comme un affront, comme si vous étiez en train de salir le pays. Nous,
All
en
right.
France, par exemple, on a la possibilité de critiquer le président parce que, parce que c'est comme ça, c'est la culture. Mais sauf qu'au Cameroun, lorsque tu critiques le président et que tu le fais de manière violente, tu as forcément les Camerounais qui vont te reprendre que, attention, il ne faudrait pas faire ceci, cela. Et pour moi, ça ne sert à rien d'aller critiquer le président. Il faudrait critiquer les faits.
Okay, thank you very much, Maurice. We definitely have a long way to go in this discussion. Now, let me go to Cynthia. Cynthia, good afternoon. Now, Maurice was talking culturally about immigration. Now, let's look at President Paul Biya's speech on the 10th of February. He spoke about youth who have been going out of the country. Of course, we know that there has been an influx. That's why the U.S. instituted temporary protected status for Cameroonians. This shows that the conflict in Cameroon is showing no end yet. Now, the role of the Cameroonian diaspora is very crucial in this situation. Do you think that this upsurge in people migrating out of Cameroon has really exposed the issues of the conflict? And is there something that we really need to do? And what can the diaspora do concerning this migration?
I will say migration is not new. The conflict has just increased the level of migration. And there are two factors. Why are youth migrating? Why are we migrating? One, because of the conflict, but also because the context or the socio-economic context is not favorable. Morias has talked about the education system, I want to put it like that. The education system, people who are not informed, and the platforms. The thing is, how is education for us? How does the state or the government, I want to put it like that, make education to be important? People go to what is important for them. When you present to them that this training that you are doing at the end of the day is not going to give you any earnings, so they have no, they are not curious to learn more. And that is why you will see that the underemployment rate in Cameroon is really, really increasing by the days, as well as the underutilization of skills. So when you look at the socioeconomic profile of Cameroon, people are migrating not out of will, but because there is not enough opportunity for them. And the conflict, like you said, has just increased this migration. So when I was in Cameroon, I was working on a project about the internally displaced people, and I really went to areas, really villages, where you will find people and you will have tears in the eyes about what you are seeing, about what people. So when somebody who has lost everything because of the conflict and has no support from family, friends, or whatever, has to flee, and then is just left with the only option maybe to move away from Cameroon to look for better opportunity for himself, or he or herself. So you can't stop such a person. You cannot, and we as the diaspora now, what we are going to do. But like you said, we are also being targeted as the one instigating the conflict. And I would say that the perspective of diaspora is also large, because there's this diversity of diaspora. You cannot, from diaspora from France, USA, Germany, UK, Asia, Cameroons are everywhere. Cameroonians are everywhere. So we have a different view on how conflict should be addressed. We have a different view of how Cameroon should be in terms of development, in terms of opportunity. And like one of the panelists said as well, you know, the culture of your host country and the culture of your origin country, they clash. There's this acculturation in the middle. So at the end of the day, you don't know where to put your head. I want to put it like that. And you also have to take in mind the context, to keep in mind the context of your country of origin. So because it is what I've observed for the little time I've been here is that, and when the research I've been doing is that the diaspora has this ideas that, okay, you come to a host country, you see something that is good, which is positive, and you say you want to implement that thing back home, and you're just like, you want a radical implementation of that thing. It doesn't work like that. You need to understand the way people think. You need to understand the way people react to things. So for example, I've conducted a research where the Northwest, the Southwest, the North, Adamawa are the regions having the low employment quality among the regions in Cameroon. And why is that so? Because one of the causes is the lack of skills. So why the lack of skills in those regions? So these are the questions we should ask ourselves. Is it because the government is not doing enough? Is it because the people are not sufficiently informed? What is the problem? Why is it? And the government is trying as much as it can to, you know, bring education there, bring opportunities there, but still there's still people, or there's still a very low skill competences or skill average in these regions. So when the diaspora, in my view, when we want to address the question of how to handle Cameroon, we need really to take into account what people really need, what people really know, what people really want. How do we implement it? And it's not about just about saying these are the projects, but how important is that project for that person? Because sometimes we do have projects, but people don't understand the importance of that project. At the end of the day, the most important things, I want to have money. The house, really, I don't care. I just want to have money. I want to have a social security, but I don't want to undergo the process. Not because the person does not know, but because the person has not been put in a place where he valued the capacity that he has, he or she have. You talk about Marias, you talk about students who are in Master 2, who doesn't know how to write emails, which is not of their fault. Yeah, but this same person at the end of the day is going to go and sell tomato. Is going to go and sell, I don't know what, at the end of the day. So you see the relevance of education is not put in forward. And this person, in the context of frustration, because he or she has responsibility at home. Your parents, your brother, your siblings, name them, yourself. And at the end of, in the middle of your journey, you maybe get pregnant, you have a family, you have a stability. So people are in the mind frame and mindset that there is no window. So they should flee. And this is why the discourse of the president come and say, why are so much people fleeing the country? If it's easy to have a passport than having an ID, so what do you expect of me?
Yeah.
If I can have my passport in 72 hours and not having my ID card in 5
1
years,
year, 2 years.
I have my person. So I want to say,
now, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Yes, let me redirect this question this way. Now, you've said that the diasporans are not opposition voices to the government of Cameroon. Am I correct?
I will not put it that I didn't say they are opposition. I will say that we are rather diverse in our opinions.
Okay, now, with this diverse resources that the diaspora has, now, how can they involve themselves in the peace process in Cameroon? With all the resources you have, what steps should the diaspora now take in order to involve themselves in the peace process?
You know, peace has two levels. Individual level, I want to put it like that, and collective level. At the collective level, you need facilities. That means if the environment is not receptive of any proposal for peace, then no matter how beautiful and perfect your idea is, it's not going to work. And on the other hand, you can also call one, like what we are doing, for example, right now, we are trying to do a sort of sensibilization, tell people, don't do this, try and do that. We are together in it. This is what I put reading on individual purposes. So I will not say there's really a 1+1 formula to this question, because we are born and found this thing. We're going to die and live it probably. So, but my advice or my point of view is that we need to really come to a place where we are more, where the diaspora, so to say, is on a very more close, united idea of what we want in Cameroon. Okay. Because right now we are not united in terms of what our perspective about Cameroon, and that is create another problem, because the diaspora in Europe, we are completely different. I'm in Germany, for example. I'm trying to speak German. So when you learn the language of somebody else, you also learn his culture, which means the environment in which you live, you acquire some cultural aspect from that country where you are, who influence your perception of your own country. So you see, you think regarding of the cultural host where you find yourself. And you agree with me that someone in the US or in the UK will not merely think the same way. We have a common ground. We want the development of Cameroon. That is one the basis that we all want. But then the how and the process differs. And this is where the unity now starts blinking, because we are not set about what we want.
Maybe Cynthia should call for a diaspora forum that will unite people from all over.
It is in process, actually.
All right. I mean, that's good news. That's some good announcement made by Cynthia. We will note it down and note the date down. Now, Tangang Andrew, you are into local development. Now, also you have a knowledge of as far as institutions are concerned. When you sat in the diaspora, I don't know if you were, by 2018, you were already out of Cameroon. But when you look back at the evolution of the conflict and the institutions that have been put in place, the Major National Dialogue, the Bilingualism Commission, the Special Status, you as a research fellow, do you think that this was the best thing to do in this crisis?
Okay, thank you again. Interestingly, yeah, in 2018, I was not yet out, but actually in 2018, I just came back or 2018, I went to South Africa and I came back in by 2019. So when the Major National Dialogue came, interestingly, we were already working around issues of youth and participation in the peace process. So we just complemented the efforts of the Major National Dialogue. It's true we do not like the process of the Major National Dialogue, because personally, to me, it was I can characterize it like a charade. There were some aspects of it that were not clear, and even the processes afterwards. For example, when they called elections for local elections in 2020, I noticed the city mayor of Limbe at the time, or the mayor of the government delegate of Limbe at the time, Andrew Mutanga, may he so rest in peace, his name was on the list. How did he know that they were going to call elections and they'll cancel the post of government delegates? That was a little bit contentious at that time. And including the fact that most of the delegates to the conference, to the Major National Dialogue, were big barons, political parties, and all of those. So again, government played with the playbook of the top-down process. Still, it is something that they've given us, and we have to build on it. So, in my honest opinion, if taking it from a diaspora perspective, I think we should just go back to our roots. Now, I am a strong advocate of local development, yes, but not local development led by councils, but local development led by people, villages. You would already know, especially in the West and Northwest, where I've done a lot of my research, that we have a self-reliant culture, and that self-reliant culture attaches us to the village one way or the other. There are even villages where if you don't pay your contribution card, and you want to carry out a project in the village, you will not do it until you've paid all of it. And they even follow up in the diaspora, you must contribute. Because you're from there, you must contribute to the development of the community. That is a perspective of local development that we did not build on when all of these local governance processes were set up by the government. We actually put that aside, and today the government has created, or the government wants to put all of these village development associations under the control of the council. Again, it is still another attempt by the government to want to create a system that they can control. I don't think people accept that. People would normally go against it. But we already have a dynamic that's in place. If every member of the diaspora goes back home, and as Cynthia mentioned, you identify what we need. What do we need back at home in our villages? We need schools, we need hospitals, we need good farm to market roads. We need benches in those schools. We need good, clean toilets in those schools. The girls need access to better facilities to manage their menstruation in schools. Those are the kind of things we need. But we are not looking at those key things. And when you look at the priorities that local development actors put in place, you start wondering if we really know what we want. And then the next thing you talked about, the special status. The special status is, there's everything special about it. Let's be fair. And again, as I said, it's a step in the right direction, but still it still follows that top-down aspect. Now, there's really nothing different in terms of the modus operandi of the special status. And I hope as time goes, we'll better understand the role of the public independent conciliator, and the commissioners for development, the commissioner for social affairs, education, and all of those. It really needs to be clarified, because so far nothing has changed. We understand it's a new institution, but if we, I don't want us to copy from somewhere and paste, because of course Cynthia is against it, and personally I'm against it. But I am for a new way of doing things, and that is, we should make use of the decentralization process. For the government should give the people the opportunity to contribute to development. We should stop investing a lot of government funds in building council buildings. No, we need the local economy to thrive. The government should allow the people to co-contribute. We should be able to contribute our quota, so that in the end we know it is our development, not government's development from the top down. It's really a long way to go, because again, changing mindsets and infringing into government's sovereignty or government's regalian rights, or as we call it, it's very difficult, but it's something that really needs to be done. So that is my perspective on that.
All right, you've given a diasporan view as far as local development and institutions within the context of the Anglophone crisis is concerned. Thanks so much. We have 30 minutes now for the panelists. Now, for this second segment of our discussions, we shall be having two minutes each for the discussions. Let me come back to Dr. Okwachu. Now, tell us more about the activities that you've reached out to about 3,000 Cameroonians in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. How has the humanitarian part of you been like? And what have you noticed in some of the communities that you visited? Dr. Monique? Is Monique with us? Maybe we move over to Morias before we go to Monique. Maybe her volume is low. We shall move over to Morias to discuss something else. Now, Morias, we have been talking about, you have been talking about cultural preservation. Now, how can the diaspora preserve their culture to strengthen their belonging and identity as far as the conflict is concerned. Because now, when you go abroad, you are asked, are you for Kamto? Are you Ambazonia? Are you Probia? How can we preserve our culture and this our identity? Can they preserve it by promoting Cameroonian culture, heritage, strengthening the sense of identity and belonging among Cameroonian youths in the diaspora? Tell us more about this.
Oui, effectivement. Déjà, quand vous arrivez à la diaspora, quand on vous demande où vous êtes, vous ne dites pas que, par exemple, je suis du Nord, ouais, je suis du Sud, ouais, je suis... Vous dites tout simplement que je viens du Cameroun. Et si la personne ne connaît pas, vous essayez de situer le Cameroun sur la carte de l'Afrique. Maintenant, comment est-ce que la diaspora devrait valoriser la culture camerounaise? C'est valoriser, par exemple, le sport. Lorsque le Cameroun était à la CAN, on a vu comment tout le monde postait, les gens y mettaient le maillot. Ici, dans les rues de Paris, c'était un peu partout, tous les Africains mettaient le maillot et ça permet à créer de l'engouement. Et les personnes qui ne connaissent pas forcément l'Afrique demandaient c'est quoi, etc. et tout. Et là, tu expliques, par exemple, l'Afrique, c'est ceci, c'est cela. Et puis aussi, toutes ces personnes ressources qui permettent de hisser l'image du pays. On va prendre, par exemple, Francis Gano et tout, qui est connu à l'international, et peut-être Cédric Doumbé. Donc, ça permet de valoriser la culture et aussi de parler de nos différents mets, parce qu'on a une gastronomie qui est super. Tout à l'heure, il y a quelqu'un qui parlait du héros. Moi, je sais qu'en entreprise, lorsque on doit ramener un plat, un mets qui est très culturel, moi, je vais toujours avec le héros. Et ça finit par plaire et ça permet de valoriser aussi cette culture. Et puis, il y a certains influenceurs, je pense, c'est Travel Cameroon, je ne sais pas si vous le connaissez, qui essaie de mettre en exergue tout cet aspect culturel du Cameroun. Donc, il met en image tous les lieux touristiques et ça permet de voir aussi cet aspect assez touristique du Cameroun. Il y a même Kim YB, cette blanche, je ne sais pas si elle est née au Cameroun, mais elle aussi, elle valorise la culture camerounaise. Il y a plein d'autres choses. Il y a la musique camerounaise, par exemple. On a plein d'ambassadeurs. Il y a par exemple Lick Bassi qui passe le temps à faire des concerts ici à la Cigale, à Paris. Et puis il y a les plus jeunes, par exemple, les ténors, les Sisso, les Salatiel, les Mistalio. Donc, on peut aussi aller par là. Il y a aussi par tout ce qui est vestimentaire. On a par exemple Iman ici qui a fait la Fashion Week de Paris. Et c'est très rare pour un Africain de le faire. Donc, on peut valoriser ces différents aspects de la culture. Il y a le cinéma avec Kin Kitus qui a eu 2 films sur Netflix, ce qui est déjà très intéressant. Je ne sais pas si en Afrique francophone, il y en a tellement qui ont eu des films et des partenariats avec Netflix. Moi, je pense que niveau culturel, le Cameroun, que ce soit du côté francophone ou anglophone, ça évolue super bien. Maintenant, nous, de la diaspora, on doit leur donner de la force, notamment en partageant les différents aspects, en parlant même de ça, que ce soit avec nos collègues de travail qui ne connaissent pas. Moi, je me souviens, il y a une fois, on était en train de parler de musique et puis j'ai dit, je vais vous faire écouter un son. Et je les ai fait écouter le son de ténor et de sissoun qui est en langue béti que moi-même je ne comprends pas. Mais ils ont
Merci.
aimé le rythme, ils ont aimé le flow, etc. Et ça permet de valoriser la culture camerounaise à l'international. Donc je pense que dans
Merci.
la diaspora, on devrait beaucoup se battre et partager ces aspects positifs qu'on trouve
Okay.
sur notre
Okay.
culture.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, let me get back to Cynthia. Now, Cynthia, the youths in the diaspora could also play a key role. Do you agree with me that they embark on political engagement, that is, engage in political activism, advocating for reforms and policies that address the root causes of the conflict back in Cameroon?
I would say we have a really dynamic youth in Cameroon generation, and we are very, very much interested in our country, definitely. To say if we are interested in politics, yes, I would say today we are really more interested in politics than back in the days. And it becomes more and more important for us to really, for us, the youth, to really take the front to change a pattern that has been there for decades already. But it's still, we are still facing struggles. As we all know, there's nothing new. I don't think I'm going to say something that we are not aware of. But like I said, and like I'm seeing on social media, I'm seeing we youth are really trying to push harder in order to create a new frame where we can really have safe space to discuss and to improve ourselves. There's still a long way to go though, like I said, because we still have this, we are not yet there in terms of unity of what we want, but we are working towards that. And I think it is something that we should keep pushing to do. And as long as sorry, there's a message that pop up. As long as we keep having a really open mind about accepting diversity that we have, then we can move forward. Because what we have been kind of facing is, my stand is good, your stand is bad. And I don't think there's no good, there's no bad. We should trying to find a middle. And right now, the Cameroon is the second most diverse country of the world after Chad. We have an index of 0.82. That means we are really diverse in Cameroon. We are the most diverse country in the world. So just to talk about that, you can imagine the wealth, the richness that the resources that we have, and that we don't know how to use that. Sometimes there are some scholars who talk about curse of resources. It's not just about material resources, but also about the diversity of resources. And Dr. Monique said it, when you eat arrow, you don't know who is Cameroonian or not. So to come back to the question of politics, to say this involves us well in politics, but I don't think that somebody who's some MLC or RDPC, when he eats arrow, he's saying, I'm eating the arrow of RDPC, I'm eating the arrow of MLC. So definitely we have some unity ground that we comes together, definitely. I don't speak French, I don't speak English, but when I see my brother here, I don't care where he's from. He's Cameroonian. So we are working towards that, and we hope to really grow bigger and stronger in unity.
Thank you, Dr. Monique. Kwachu, are you getting me now?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Let me just come to you. So we'll give you 3 minutes since you didn't respond the first time. Now, will you agree with me that humanitarian assistance is very vital? We see many diaspora youth who are getting less interested in helping IDPs, refugees who are back home. They call it ground one, ground zero. Now, you also agree with me that humanitarian assistance is very important, and there is a big need for importance of helping those back home. What steps can be taken to achieve this? I read a little bit about what you've achieved so far. You've reached out to 3,000 community members in the Northwest, Southwest regions of Cameroon. Now, tell us more about this.
Well, Better Breed Cameroon has been running for 10 years now. Actually, this is our 11th, but we took a gap year. So since establishing in 2013 with the cash prize from the Orange Foundation that I got for academic excellence despite disability, my hearing impairment, we, the team, have led projects quarterly. That's 4 projects a year. And it's through those 4 projects a year over the course of 10 years that we've been able to impact 3,000 plus people. This has included things like first aid trainings, web empowerment workshops, bursaries, cash bursaries for those that are going back to school, the Summer Randy Youth Right Contest, reading caravans, so on and so forth. So it has been diverse projects. To speak on diasporans giving back particularly, one thing I can say is that through Better Breed Cameroon, I have been fortunate. We have never had to, till date, we have not solicited for funding. We might in future, but we have not solicited for funding from anywhere. And we have been completely Cameroonian funded. And that has been possible because the people I've been working with we have this idea of, this is your tithe to society, this your tithe back to the country. So you give a part of whatever you can, and with what we have, we do that project. So this has limited the extent to which the projects have been, obviously, but it has also made it genuinely ours. And through this, I have had diasporans severally write to me and say, hey, I know you guys are doing some work through Better Cameroon. How can I support? I want to cover one of the prizes. I want to buy some books for the Reading Caravan project. I want to support one of the teenage girls that got pregnant during, because they were out of school because of the crisis, and so on and so forth. The diasporans want to help. Diasporan remittance, I think it needs to be drilled into our head. Diaspora remittance is more than INGO aid to the African continent. That means diasporans are doing more than any World Bank, any IMF, any loans that Cameroon is taking.
But are we seeing the impact on the ground? Are we seeing the impact on the ground? The NGOs who receive this money, do they swing to them?
Every year. I think that's something that I don't think is shouted enough. It's not, people need to understand the power that they have. The thing though is, for I think the weakness comes from disunity with the diaspora and the remittance. See, if they were gathered together sending that money at once, the government would be more scared. But they're sending that remittance as in 500,000 to my brother for him to pay school fees for the children, 700,000 to this person for her higher education, so on and so forth. So it's looking a bit less. But if you consider the gross amount that is sent annually by diasporan communities back home, you would see the power that they have. One of the things that we want to do, there's a Ghanaian organization called Ahaspora, kind of like AHA, like your aha moment. And it's also a Twi word that has a different meaning, but it encapsulates what we want to do in capturing the power, the inspirational power of the diaspora. The Diaspora project. So one of the things that we want to do Better Be Cameroon is partner up with diasporas based groups in how they can have an accountability system, because they want to help, but they don't really know how, and they can't really trust because our system is what it is and has lost a lot of confidence. So perhaps what I will leave us to say is, when we leave home, when we are based abroad, let's consider, like Cynthia says, it doesn't matter if you're the Francophone, it doesn't matter if you're Anglophone, it doesn't matter which tribe you're from. Our biggest problem is that we leave the country and then we go and join, this is Bali Diaspora Group of Maryland and Texas and this and that. Whereas we could have just had Cameroonian groups.
All right. Thank you very much. We gave you 3 minutes, you used 5. That's not bad. We still have 10 more minutes for the panel discussion before questions from our audience. Now, let me go to you, Tangang Andrew. Can we use education and research to amplify diaspora youth engagement in Cameroon?
Absolutely. I think there I'll join Morias and Cynthia. Morias raised key points around not being able to use a student in master's to not being able to use the internet. I mean, in 2024, it's unthinkable. Yeah, it's true. We sit here and we try to convince these people that it's very complicated. But yes, at the same time, it's something that needs to be done because the world is actually growing at breakneck speed. So we need to catch up. So what I will propose is that for the diaspora to intervene, especially in the domain of education, what we really need to do is to reorientate our educational system. For funding education, especially the STEM subjects, I think that's really been neglected for a very long time. We need to get back on the STEM, that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We should also mainstream gender into these particular projects, get fund a lot of engineering, encourage more young people to get into engineering. And for those people who have universities, we should create universities, or we should open university institutions that actually have a particular standard that encourage the students to make good use of these online and digital tools. And in terms of research, I think we need to create a lot of partnerships to engage in more research from Cameroon. I think when you read the National Development Strategy, one of the government's main concerns is that research does not inform government policy. That's a problem. Research should always inform government policy. We should not conduct research because we want to conduct research, but we should conduct research because there is a problem we want to resolve. So I think we should engage again. That comes back again to our educational system. Are we just doing master's degrees because we want to do master's degrees, or we are doing master's degrees because we want to resolve a particular problem? So we should actually encourage, or we should actually engage students to carry out research that resolves a particular policy problem, be it engineering, be it mathematics. And finally, I would say in terms of education and research now, we should actually transform our universities into production grounds. For example, the University of Chang, there's no reason why the University of Chang is not an agricultural hub for Cameroon. It is supposed to be by right, because it was created on that foundation. So we expect FASA to show us farms everywhere in the country where they are cultivating and carrying out research to showcase the agricultural prowess in the different regions of Cameroon. That's research. And we should, other universities should be able to experiment how we can process that food to produce, to actually come up with final goods. And we should move from towards the mechanized education of mechanized farming agricultural philosophy.
Okay. At the end of the discussion, we have like 6 more minutes. I will give you the voice to talk about your own personal initiative that you've been doing in order to contribute your 1 cent in what's happening in Cameroon. Now, Morias, Tangang spoke about diasporans, researching and also helping those back home, and the change of our educational system, as well as IT tools. Now, does AI also play a great role in what can happen back in Cameroon? Why am I saying this? Because those in the diaspora stand a big chance of knowing more about artificial intelligence, and then knowing how to come over it. And then maybe why not help those back home? I hosted a program last year. Someone in the US, he created an organization called GLAPI, and he has a huge community back home in Cameroon. And some IDPs have been, recruited in this GLAPI, and it's actually helping them. Can the diasporans be encouraged to do more things like this?
Oui, effectivement. En France, par exemple, on a un collectif qui s'appelle Mongoleux, qui aide les personnes qui désirent se former dans les métiers de la tech euh, gratuitement. Donc, ce collectif a mis sur pied notamment une intelligence artificielle, notamment pour que les jeunes Camerounais puissent facilement se répertorier, trouver des associations et discuter même tout simplement. Mais là, ce qu'on devrait savoir, c'est que l'intelligence artificielle fonctionne avec énormément de sources de données. Et nous, ça sera problématique au Cameroun actuellement parce qu'on n'a pas cette source de données. On va utiliser des sources de données qui proviennent des serveurs open source qui sont hébergés à l'Occident. Donc, ça fait que l'intelligence artificielle au Cameroun aujourd'hui n'aura pas son identité propre, sera une identité occidentale. Par contre, si nous, avec nos universitaires, on arrive déjà à créer de super grosses bases de données, et pour ça, il faudrait qu'on puisse informatiser notre système éducatif, notre administration, les différents métiers de l'administration. En fait, c'est tout un chantier qui a tout autour pour pouvoir mettre l'intelligence artificielle au cœur de la transformation technologique du Cameroun. Moi, j'aime bien dire que l'intelligence artificielle est comme toute nouvelle technologie. Ça va disrupter un moment, mais sauf que ça a un apport qui est plus important que le mal que ça fait. Mais maintenant, c'est comment est-ce qu'on va l'utiliser. Là, on a encore des difficultés primaires. Bon, certes, c'est vrai, il y a on va dire, il y a une partie de la population qui est assez outillée et douée dans tout ce qui est dans les métiers de l'IT, mais cette population, je pense, c'est pas 10% des Camerounais. Donc, il faudrait qu'on puisse déjà revenir dans les bases et former les Camerounais sur des petites solutions d'IT et ensuite ouvrir le champ sur tout ce qui est intelligence artificielle et tout. Parce que si on déploie l'intelligence artificielle maintenant au Cameroun à un très haut niveau, c'est juste une poignée de personnes qui pourront l'utiliser de façon efficiente.
Thank you very much. Our panelists are not only giving ideas on the problems, they are also giving ideas on the solutions, on how Cameroonian diaspora youths, the role they can play and the perspectives in the crisis in Cameroon. Now, Cynthia, when this conflict or crisis started, and of course generated to a conflict and what so many people call today the Anglophone crisis or the Anglophone conflict, there were a lot of diasporan youth who were knocking diplomatic doors. You will see them online saying, I visited this ambassador, and do you know of any of such initiatives ongoing now? And what can you as an international relations expert do in order to also bring foreign help back in Cameroon to solve this conflict? You think that the diaspora has a great role to achieve this?
I know that the diaspora has been moving a lot in terms of trying to propose solution, especially now that the conflict has taken another turn that was not expected. That is the common role that conflict in the beginning takes, especially when some prerequisites are not taken into account when dealing with them. And unfortunately, the Anglophone crisis is trapped. It's on a trap zone that is out even of the hands of the initial parties that initiated the conflict in the first place. So it becomes very difficult to manage, because it's not just now about the state of Cameroon and the formal formal Anglophones parties that were acting, like claiming, but now external actors have come into the conflict for multiple reasons. And in conflict setting, we call it conflict trap. So it becomes now difficult to handle. So unfortunately, at the beginning, Valerie talked about the incident that happened, I think 2 days ago, yesterday, with 300 shops burned, for example. I don't think that when we started, or when the conflict started, it was aiming to destroy the life of people. It was based on making a claim about something that has been legitimately denied. But today is not what it is. So what the diaspora can do is complicated, because, like I said, the conflict is already trapped. So it is complicated because
So is there no point of convergence, Cynthia? Is there no point of convergence? There are people who want independence. There are those who want a united Cameroon. Is there no point of convergence where neutral diasporan youths or political youth or activists can come together and find a common solution to this, away from independence and one state?
Like I said earlier before, I said when we implement peace, there's the need of a setting, like an atmosphere that needs to be there. We cannot, in the context of Cameroon, that is, we cannot initiate the peace without the support of both parties initial there. It's not possible. It is tricky, I will put it like that, because you need the parties in conflict to be there. You need to create an environment where the party can actually talk in open heart, and which is difficult to find. We cannot talk today of independence. Let us be realistic. No state will do that in the realm of international relations. It's not possible, because separation from Cameroon entails creating a micro-state. And that we're having two micro states like South Sudan tomorrow, which is going to maybe create another issue, because this can become a terrain for terrorism, it can become a terrain of insecurity. And I don't think, and when you look back, there are people from the French zone who have family in the Anglophone side, and vice versa. So if you say you want to separate who from whom? That is another question that you need to answer, which is not doable. And aside of that, I will also say that there's the decentralization policy that is in place is still struggling to pop up. But like Tanga said, it is really one of the main policies that can really lead towards a kind of a more sustainable peace in Cameroon. And this is where the diaspora comes in, that to empower instead the decentralization policies. That would be a way for the diaspora to really engage into the peace process in Cameroon in a more concrete way.
Final round, 30 seconds each. Dear panelists, it's been great discussion so far. We shall have questions from our audience. Just for Dr. Monique Kwachu, in your line of duties so far, what are some of the challenges that you've had? Monique seems not to be with us. Yes, can you unmute yourself?
Sorry, network. I got you.
Okay.
I got you, just I was like, don't mind me.
Okay. Yeah.
Please repeat again.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges you faced so far in your line of duties, in the tremendous work that you've been doing?
Number one challenge, honestly, has been in terms of human resources. Finding the right people to work. One of the things that we don't admit is a lot of us are doing the nonprofit work as out of the love we have for the country. It's hard work. But as much as it's hard work, you also have physical needs. You also need to support a family. You need to support yourself, and so on and so forth. One of the things I really struggled with is I did not want us to be an organization that is dependent on funding, on external funding. I did not want us to see Better Bit Cameroon as a money-making venture. So all members up to 2021 were working. We all had our own jobs, and we came together and did quarterly projects. It's only in 2021 that we actually had staff that was Better Bit Cameroon staff that could do social media, that could respond to questions, and so on and so forth. But even at that, you need somebody that will follow up the staff. So it's still been a lot to handle your job, to make sure that you have something to eat, so that this organization does not become a money-making venture for you. And keep that resistance at the heart of it. Because resistance work, it is resistance work. If we're saying we are fixing schools, or we're saying we're helping alleviate poverty, all of this is because somebody, the government, is not doing its job enough. So it's a form of resistance. It's a form of correctional work. And you need, being based in a context where there's a lot of that social division, you need to be able to be aware of your why and stick to it, so that other people's opinions, so that the reality on the ground does not dampen your optimism or your hope for what should be.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. 3 minutes to go before I hand over to our audience who will have something to say now. Morias, est-ce que vous avez eu beaucoup de challenges pendant vos discussions avec la diaspora? Est-ce que la diaspora a beaucoup de choses à faire, mais et ont beaucoup de challenges aussi, des obstacles?
Oui, la diaspora, ils ont énormément d'obstacles parce qu'il y en a plusieurs qui veulent déjà venir implémenter des projets ou peut-être soutenir des projets, mais il y a cette crise de confiance-là entre ceux qui sont localement au pays et ceux qui sont à la diaspora, parce que les ressources allouées ne sont pas souvent utilisées à bon escient. Donc, il y a des gens qui sont prêts à mettre de l'argent pour des événements, pour aider, mais sauf que la personne qui crée, par exemple, le projet au pays, il l'utilise peut-être à d'autres fins. Et ça fait qu'il y a cette crise de confiance-là qui s'est créée, en fait. Et maintenant, moi, à mon niveau, j'essaye, moi, de créer avec ma plateforme Cameroon Cultural and Digital Base un écosystème favorable à l'éducation, l'éducation numérique et culturelle. Et comment est-ce que l'éducation peut favoriser le empowerment de la jeunesse et aussi comment ça peut favoriser le empowerment de la culture. Donc, nous, on essaye de faire des levées de fonds et à la fin des levées de fonds, on envoie, je ne sais pas, comme je vais dire, une sorte de preuve de ce que nous avons réalisé à tous ceux qui ont contribué pour l'existence de notre événement. Donc, nous, on essaye vraiment de se crédibiliser au maximum pour que les gens puissent voir réellement à quoi a servi l'utilisation de leur argent.
Okay. Cynthia, now, do you think that the aspect of double nationality has been a big problem in Cameroon, especially with the diasporans? If you come in and you have a nationality, you are naturalized in UK, they will tell you, oh, you are a British, you cannot talk about problems in Cameroon. Do you think that the diaspora has really faced this issue of double nationality, dual nationality in Cameroon?
Definitely, definitely. It is one of the big topics in the diaspora, actually, about this double nationality, especially when we see that among the African countries, I think Cameroon is among the last countries who are refusing this double nationality. And like we all say, we know the resources that the diaspora is actually in Cameroon, like what we can bring, what we have. There are thousands of people from the US, from Asia, from Europe, from Africa, who are willing to go back and invest in Cameroon. We are told, Dr. Monique told about the remittances and say, if we gather those remittances, I mean, it is most of the time it's even way higher than the GDP of some European countries here. But then we don't see these resources that we have. But we also need to understand the context of Cameroon. We don't need to talk out of as if we don't know the context. The context is the system is very politicized. That's the truth. And if the diaspora has this opportunity to have a double nationality, it's not just come with the advantage of resources in terms of economic and financial resources. It also comes with the advantage of changing the politics, and which the government in place, sorry to say, is not willing to change. Because if for example, I sign for the German nationality and I have definitely the Cameroonian nationality, I will not take the same nonsense. I will not want my kids or my sister's kids or anybody else's children to go through the same trauma that I went through. I want the change for them. We all want that change. But we are muted on the political side because having the double nationality indicate as well the political sides. That means we have the possibility to interact and to react. And unfortunately, we are in context that the government, so we have a repressive system. I will say this is the truth. I am sorry to say it. We are not yet open to that, not because we cannot do that, because obviously from different and prominent angles, Cameroon has shown that he has resources to do whatever he wants. And up to date, there is no country in Europe, as far as I know, that can issue a passport in 72 hours. Cameroon can do that. So if we can do that, there's a lot of things that we can do. So I would say it's really tricky resources. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot. You still have the possibility of responding to questions from our audience. The last one, Tangang Andrew, you were nodding your head when Cynthia was speaking about dual nationality. Do you think that this has been a major obstacle in the diasporans involving themselves in the crisis back home? And institutionally, is this kind of a government policy that has been put in place in order to bar, these intellectuals who go out of the country and are unable to bring back home what they learned?
Yes, so I think on the point of dual nationality, let's be clear that during the major national dialogue, it came out as one of the resolutions. Immediately after the national dialogue, Cameroon drafted the family law, I think the family code for the very first time. Dual nationality was included in it. And in it, again, Cameroon formally proscribed, all the other acts. I really don't want to bring that up, but dual nationality was included in it. I still remember very well. A Cameroonian who adopts another nationality does not lose his or her Cameroonian nationality. I would remember. And if my memory, unless my memory has gotten the best of me, Parliament should have voted for that law already, but it has not been promulgated by the head of state, unless I'm wrong. But I mean, people can discuss, but unless I'm wrong. So in essence, what Cynthia is saying, it's let's be fair, the world is moving very fast, and if it has proven to work somewhere else, we can still bring it up. It's just that the mechanisms in place hold it for reasons they don't want to tell us. But if they have already gone through it, drafting out that in the family code, then I mean, why not implement it already? So I think we should. The diaspora has the right. The diaspora has the right to benefit from that. It was agreed upon. The diaspora participated in a major national dialogue and they asked for it. So why? It's just but obvious that they should have it. If they have it, it gives them more assurances to engage more in peace processes and development processes back home. That's what I think.
Okay, thank you very much, dear panelists. It was indeed great discussion. Valerie, over to you, and let's hear what the audience have to say.
Maybe, I don't know. We don't have any hands up, but we have a few reactions on the chat, which I could bring to our notice, a few of them. And I don't know if there's time to answer because we are running a lot out of time now. Oh God, I don't know how to use this Apple laptop very well. Okay. A lot is expected from the youths at the diaspora. Some of us back home feel it's easier and that you are exposed and can solve a lot of issues. I believe this alone can affect how you think, feel, or react to situations. This is from Foka Sherifa to Kinyoy. Young Alfred Fang asks the question, is there any possibility for the diaspora to accompany young organizations working to foster peace within the country, and how can this be done? That's a good question. Everyone has a role to play, and I believe that you start by shaping the mentality of those back home. I don't know how I like that point, shaping the mentality of other people. I don't know if I want that assignment. Now I have benefited from a mentorship program by Better Breed Cameroon. Congrats, Monique. And I think it's one of the ways of bridging diaspora home-based relationships. iPhone again. Thank you, panelists, for the insightful interventions. The diaspora needs to be more intentional, coordinated, and committed to whatever positive contributions they decide to make towards lasting peace in Cameroon. Do we really have the kind of leadership from the diaspora to drive such a process?
Good question.
Yeah, Safo Elvis Chick, good afternoon, my dear panelists. What's the root cause of this our crisis? I'm sorry we will not answer that one because of course you know what it is, and my interest in this dialogue has never been to go and belabor the point of causes and causes and causes always, because we need to think forward. That's good enough for an answer. But of all the comments I've read from the reaction from the audience, does any of you now, including the moderator, want to react to it before we close the discussion?
Yeah, I think I want to react to something.
Okay.
I really do appreciate the comments made by, I think it's Kinyu, Foka, and Saka Bernard. The first being that we are expecting a lot from the diaspora. These are people who have managed to leave the country. A country that has literally drained them out and given them very little to believe in. And they're already dealing with very tough capitalist systems in different countries without their families, without support systems. And we're still asking them to do more. So sometimes when we're having this conversation, I do try to, because honestly, whenever I'm abroad, I actually pity people. I do try to think like, perhaps this energy should be directed to the people that are actually in Cameroon to fix a system in which it can attract more diaspora help. And I'm not saying the diasporans are not doing and should not be called upon to help. Obviously, they are already helping. But I think there needs to be more dialogues like this between those in the diaspora and those back home, so they understand the diaspora perspective. Personally, I think everybody should fall push so that they can go and see for themselves what the wahala is before they should be asking anything or asking anybody money. But since all of us cannot empty the country, I think a lot more dialogue will help us appreciate the diaspora reality, what their daily lives are, what they're dealing with, in a way that we'll be able to know, okay, how does an organization working for peace then approach somebody in the diaspora for help? Not from a place of entitlement, of say, okay, people should give, but this is how we can partner. That issue of dual nationality will be the number one. If I think that should be number one. I remember when the parliamentarians actually put it up and nobody said anything. We heard that it was up in parliament for discussion and nothing again happened. So perhaps advocating for that should be one of the ways in which we can give the diasporas more confidence to say, invest back home because it's still yours. You won't have to give up your passport every time that you get an American passport. And to the question that, okay, so do we encourage people to leave or do we encourage people to stay back home? I don't think we should. In fact, everybody should choose for themselves what we got. But I would like to note that as Hansen mentioned, the president's speech on the 11th of February, very interesting. The fact that in the same speech, he spoke about people leaving, and in the same speech, he praised Ngannou, who we all know the story of how he left. So in the same speech, you're talking about, don't leave your country. And in the same speech, you're lauding the person that left through back route. I mean, we should try and reconcile that now. So it's not for us to say who should leave or who should not leave, but the country kind of tells you clearly which one is going to be valuable. They don't care at the end of the day if Gano took which Mexico road or the desperation that made him to leave his country in that way. They don't care. Today, he is now at what do they call this place? Is it Camp Noah or Jardin Noah or Yannick Noah's events, rubbing shoulders with the president's son, rubbing shoulders with Etofis, with people of very different statuses than he was. And when I saw that picture of them in that setting, it kind of, I think what I wanted us to take away is that as we leave and go abroad and our status changes, whether we leave or whether we stay, we should remember that the enemy is not actually the next person. The enemy is not even our poverty. The enemy is the system that keeps us there. Because these people have been able to make it. Ghana has been able to make it. And he will still be powerless in the face of the system. He's now on their own edge, but he cannot change the system that made him to run. He is just like Etofis, no matter how high he got, when he set up his telecommunications company, as somebody investing back in the country, he was still not able to take off with Seteto. So we should always remember that it's a system we're fighting. It's not exactly our own individual capitalism, individual money making, no matter how much I make it. I will not be able to fight this unless we band together. So I think that's why the dialogue is really important.
If I could just add a quick point, I think Elvis just made mention of the fact that yes, some diaspora people contribute to perpetrating, they're helping the crisis not to come to an end because of their humanitarian assistance. Actually, yes, I think in every conflict there's what you call the economy of war. Technically, the people who have the power and the resources, they benefit. In as much as the diaspora, to some extent, we can blame some members of the diaspora for perpetrating it, but we should also understand that a huge part of that diaspora is contributing to mitigating the effects of the conflict. So it goes both ways. And the only thing we can clamor for at this stage is that the problem we face is a governance issue. If we can resolve the governance issue, if we can uphold the decentralization and actually transfer power and create space for everybody to participate, young people engaging and every other thing, we bring in, the unity aspect we have talked about is not just the diaspora, but even within the country. And we don't look at ethnic cleavages and some cliches about ethnic groups, and then I think we could be moving in the direction that really makes us a one united and indivisible country. I just wanted to raise that point. Over, Vivian.
Oui, effectivement, à la suite de Monique et de Andrew qui ont parlé, moi j'aime bien dire que on veut toujours mettre tout sur le dos du gouvernement. Le gouvernement a sa responsabilité, ça tout le monde le sait. Mais maintenant, nous, à notre petit niveau, on a aussi notre part de responsabilité. Si par exemple, on voit que sur Internet, il y a eu quelque chose qui ne va pas dans le sens de l'unité, est-ce que nous, on a signalé? Au contraire, on a plutôt liké, on a partagé ça à peut-être 10 personnes de notre entourage. Et on ne sait pas quel est l'état d'esprit de ces 10 personnes-là. Et ça crée beaucoup plus de frustration et ça alimente la crise. Alors que si c'est qu'on signale et on garde ça à notre niveau, ça fait en sorte que ça permet de contenir, par exemple, ce genre d'image, ce genre de propos, etc. Donc, nous, à notre niveau, on doit déjà se dire que nous sommes des acteurs qui pouvons changer les choses. Certes, on aime minimiser notre impact en disant que non, l'autre va faire ceci, cela, mais non, nous aussi, nous, on peut le faire. Imaginons que juste nous six qui sont là présents sur l'image, on arrive à le faire. Ça va faire en sorte que si des propos haineux devaient aller sur, je ne sais pas, sur 120, 150, 50 autres utilisateurs, ils ne vont pas le voir et ça sera une petite victoire. Et maintenant, multiplier ces 6 par 1000 personnes. Donc, vous voyez, et puis vous multipliez les 120 par 1000 personnes. Ça fait quoi? On passe à 12 000 et vous voyez que l'impact sera grand. Si déjà chacun se sent responsable à son niveau de dire que je peux aider en faisant tel aspect, en signalant ce qui est un propos haineux et aussi en changeant notre façon de raisonner. Donc, notamment, avant, on pouvait peut-être titiller notre ami en disant c'est un bamena, etc. et tout. Avant, ça passait, qu'on était plus jeune. Maintenant, au vu du contexte, c'est pris comme des propos haineux. Donc, on a aussi changé cette réflexion-là et se dit, ouais, je ne devrais plus utiliser ce genre de langage parce que ça peut créer une frustration et ça alimente plus la guerre que la paix entre nous. Et je vais terminer en répondant à Ruth parce que j'ai vu sa question notamment sur les élections en 2025 et tout ce qui sera désinformation et fake news sur la toile. Donc, je veux te dire, notamment nous au Cameroun Cultures and Digital Days, pour notre 3e édition qui va se dérouler en novembre, on a une journée qui est dédiée à la formation sur tout ce qui est fake news. Et d'ailleurs, on en pour parler. Enfin, là, on va discuter avec defyhatenow et Africa Check parce qu'on veut que c'est eux qui soient en lead de cette journée, vu que c'est, on va dire ça comment, c'est leur cheval de bataille, c'est ce qu'ils font. Donc, c'est très important qu'on relève cela, vu que les élections, on connaît tout l'engouement et toutes les crises que ça amène. Donc, il est important qu'on puisse former les Camerounais à lutter contre les fake news. Et nous, on le fait gratuitement. Parce que tout ce qui se fait au Cameroun Cultural and Digital Days, c'est fait gratuit pour le grand public.
Thank you very much, Morias. For want of time, I have to end the discussion here now. I really did not want this to go on for 2 hours because talking is good, but talking too much is not good. It's like having alcohol. Having alcohol is good, but getting drunk is the problem. Thank you very, very much. This discussion is going to be on our live Facebook page. And if you have any things to use from this discussion on your works, I think you're allowed to do it as long as it tends to promote peace and reconciliation in Cameroon. The next session of this discussion would occur exactly in 3 months' time, I think. That will be around June, between June and July. And we shall tilt more towards cultural groups existing in the diaspora, in the Cameroon diaspora. So cultural groups here would mean Awing people in Berlin or Bali people in Maryland, I don't know, trying to bring and harmonize what these cultural groups can contribute towards the peace dialogue. And then later on, I think again in September towards the 21st of September, which is International Peace Day, we shall try to connect different diasporas that exist in our defyhatenow project. So this means looking at trying to bring in the Cameroon diaspora, the Ethiopian diaspora, I don't know, maybe a little bit of Kenya or the diaspora from elsewhere to see generally now towards the end what a diaspora voice is in peace conflict, different ways in which diaspora communities affect the discourse online and back home from a cross-country perspective. Until we do that, I encourage you all to keep tuning into the defyhatenow different materials to use in peace work and for your youth work and everything. We are very much present on the different social media platform and are always very, very open to connect. And yeah, one last round of gratitude to the different panelists who joined in. Dr. Monique Kwacho of the University of Bristol, who joined from Yaoundé. Andrew Tangang, researcher from the University of Birmingham, who joined from Wolverhampton. Cynthia, Peace Studies researcher in Osnabrück University. Morias of Cameroon, what's it again? Cultural, digital, I've forgotten the name.
Cameroon Cultural and Digital Days.
Cameroon Cultural and Digital Days, who joined in from Paris. I'm really looking forward to see how we could work together a little bit more. And of course, our moderator, Hansen for Chanji, who joined to moderate the discussion. I'm grateful to the many people online. And last but not the least, I'm grateful to the other colleagues whom you're not seeing. There is Susie sitting right here on my right. There is Kendi and Joki sitting over in Nairobi, and Dan as well. There is Law and Desmond sitting in Cameroon, and they have all contributed to make this 2-hour discussion a success. Do keep writing to us and tell us what you think. Let the discussion keep going on, and the more we stay in dialogue, the more we stay in talking, I think things can only get better. Because as always, if we fight the system, we have to stick together. Have a lovely evening.
Bye.
Thank you.